Are you a coach that is making less than $30,000 a month? If yes, there are 3 simple steps that you need to take in order to go from wherever you are now to hitting consistent $30,000 months. Now, if you do want to know exactly what these 3 steps are, I just went ahead and hosted a mastermind where I broke each of these 3 steps down in detail and actually broke down someone's business that was just getting started as a coach so that you could have an actual example of how these steps can be implemented into your business to get you to at least $30,000 a month. So without further ado, let's hop in the video. So the 3 steps that I should say, we're going to talk about the 3 steps that people need to do to get to $30,000 a month. A lot of coaches here in the group, I see they're either just getting started or they're stuck on these early stages, maybe just a couple $1,000s a month, typically under $10,000 a month. Diana, if you are comfortable with sharing this, I would love to hear your input. If not, let me know and that's fine. Where are you currently at in your coaching business, just so I could go ahead and kind of, we'll say, personalize it to you? Okay, let me see. I see a chat. Okay, it's just starting. Okay, 0 per month. Okay, got it. So what I'm gonna do, that's all good. We all started somewhere. So essentially what we'll talk about is I'll personalize some of it to you, but I will kind of give the high level stuff. So the 3 steps that we need to take in order to get to consistent $30,000 months are these 3 things right here, okay? Number 1 is our offer. Number 2 is generating some sort of leads. And number 3 is sales. So before we start talking about selling, before we start getting $30,000 in revenue every single month, we first have to understand what are we going to go ahead and sell. The very first part of an offer is first identify who are we actually selling to, okay? So number 1 part of the offer, we need to identify who is our ideal client. And a lot of coaches that I come and speak with, they say, oh, well, I want to help this person and that person and that person. Don't get me wrong. Of course, we want to help as many people as possible. In order to have the highest probability of success and to really grow it, the thing that I recommend first is just get one ideal client, right? I'm not saying a 40-year-old man. I'm not saying a 20-year-old woman. I'm not saying a 60-year-old man, whatever it is. We want to pick one avatar that has one problem. We want to help them solve it in the ideal scene. So what would this look like? Let's say, for example, and actually, I want to make it interactive with you. Diana, what are you currently coaching people on? Or what are you looking to start coaching people on, I should say?
I had been wanting to coach adopted people, but now I'm switching to helping their parents.
Okay.
So their biological or adoptive parents who might have relationship issues, or for biological parents, they might be worried that their adult son or daughter will come meet them now, and their current family doesn't know that they've relinquished a child. And adoptive parents might be concerned that their son or daughter is looking for their biological parents.
Okay, understood. So as we're talking about these parents, what are the biggest pain points or problems that they're currently facing?
For biological parents who haven't shared or don't even know, many biological fathers won't know that they might be fathers. So they might be living in fear, and worried about what will happen if a child comes and people are, they're afraid of what that might mean and what people think of them.
Okay, so they're living in fear. They might be afraid of what other people think. Are these people aware that they have an adopted child already? Yes or no?
So the adoptive parents, of course, they would know, right? But they might not have told their child that they are adopted. But let's just
you're going for the biological parents, right?
Biological parents.
Yes.
For the most part, the birth mothers will know that they had relinquished the child, although there's all sorts of information coming out of Korea, for example, in international adoptions where birth mothers were told that their children were stillborn. And basically they were sold to United States, for example. And now with DNA kits, those children are able to connect with family. And so they're I'm talking to parents who know that they had a child relinquished
Okay,
for
understood.
adoption.
Okay, and so these parents of, we'll say, of adopted kids, but they're the biological parents is another thing too. I also saw, by the way, Eric, you're here in the background. Nice to have you here as always, my friend. So coming back to it though, biological parents are the people that we're helping, right? Who have given their kids up for adoption. Some of them do know it, some of them don't. What are so the problems that you kind of mentioned that they're facing? They're living in fear. What other problems are these biological parents facing?
Just how to tell their current spouse or kids that there might be this other person in their lives. Sometimes reunions happen and they continue to keep their now adult son or daughter a secret
Yeah.
because they don't know how to have a conversation.
Okay. And so essentially, these people, these biological parents of adopted kids, they're living in fear. They're not really sure how to go ahead and share with them. So what are you going to go ahead and help them with then?
Feeling comfortable that the truth and honesty will help them to live in integrity, and that it doesn't need to be a another traumatic experience, that there is a way to respectfully and empathetically show compassion for the sons or daughters that are now adults and seeking maybe some information, and to how to go about doing that, having the conversation, practicing, you know, how to set boundaries
Okay.
and set expectations so that you're on the same page.
Okay. Understood. Also, by the way, Lisa, pleasure to have you here. We are talking about the three steps that we need to take. My formatting got messed up a little bit. Three steps to get to $30,000 a month. The three things that we need to do is number one, identify the offer. Number two, identify a way to generate leads. And number three, get sales. We have Diana here. Diana, correct? Okay,
Yes.
perfect. I want to make sure I'm saying it's not Deanna or whatever. Diana here. And she's just getting started and we're focusing on her ideal client, right? Getting her offer. That's the first part of identifying the ideal client. If you can turn on your camera, we'd love to see you, Lisa. If not, if you would like to jump in, whether it be audio or whether it be chat, please do. So Diana, coming back to kind of what we're talking about. So we're helping the biological parents of adopted kids who have given their kids away, right? And they're currently living in fear. They're not really sure how to explain to their spouse, to their kids, like this situation because it sounds like they've hidden it thus far.
Yes.
Okay. And the outcome is to essentially give them, based on the description that you gave, it's more of a, is it fair to say a sense of peace or tactical things that they can do to kind of overcome this almost internal grief that they've held for, it sounds like a long time as their kids are now getting older and they're worried, is this going to affect this new life that I've essentially made? Is that correct?
Yes, we would help them, because a lot of birth mothers in particular were told to relinquish. We try not to do giveaway, but
Mhm.
relinquish their children, and then they're told to forget about them, which doesn't happen. At least my birth mother was not able to forget
Mm.
that, and so they have been trying to forget unsuccessfully. Have
Mm.
tried to move on with their lives, met somebody, married, had children, and now they're maybe concerned that, but they also may be wishing that their son or daughter from before would connect. But
Mm.
how to control that, how to share that information so that it's a positive and not, um, so that they're feeling, um, I, we don't want to traumatize anybody
Yeah, of course.
anymore. We actually would want to have that sense of peace that you were talking about, and, um, perhaps form a relationship, perhaps not. That it's up to the adults to figure out if it's a good fit. Does that help?
Absolutely. I mean, the hard part is this individual, whether we're talking the mother or the father, has already gone through a fairly traumatic thing of, you have to think about it. I had a kid, and for whatever the circumstance may be, I have relinquished my child to someone else,
Mhm.
And within that, that obviously causes a lot of grief. And so what you're seeking to do is you're seeking to help them.
Mhm.
And tell me if I'm wrong, I'd say a lot of these people probably have kind of buried some of these feelings, emotions, swept it under a rug because they didn't want to deal with it. But we all know that problems don't get solved just by making them hide in a corner, right? It comes through actually facing them and doing all these different things. So you want to help these people overcome these problems, these situations that they're currently facing while not causing massive amounts of trauma. Yeah, of course, we're going to need to kind of look under the rug and figure out what's going on, but that's what
Mhm.
you're going to need to do in the most tactful and best way possible. So that all makes sense. So for the fact of time, because I want to make sure that we get through all of the points and also I kind of
Sure.
leave open for a space and everything. The biggest thing that I recommend for you, just getting started and doing all that, as I shared before, step number one is we need to identify what is the offer. Like, what are you going to sell people? And in order to do that, you can kind of see I have the buckets here. I'm going to rewrite them underneath just so it's clear again. But part one, we need to understand who is the ideal client, okay? Above all else, like if we don't understand who we're selling to, because we have to remember, people buy things to solve a problem. And ultimately,
Mhm.
if we don't understand what the problem is, like how in the world are we ever going to go ahead and sell them on something, let alone the most fruitful and best way to not only help people and get results and outcomes. Not only that, number one, but then also number two, to make it financially make sense for you. And not only just
Mhm.
make sense, but like make it to where it's fruitful while you're doing something that you're passionate about and all of that is going to be high ticket coaching. Now, why in the world am I bringing up high ticket coaching? Because if you're charging someone $5,000 or however much money it may be for something, we need to make sure that that problem is obviously very clearly stated and that problem is big enough for them to justify coming out of pocket of these funds. So I know I had a bunch of notes up there, so I'm going to go ahead and write it down here again. Okay, offer. Step one of crafting the offer, we need to first identify the ideal client. And the more specific that we can get on the ideal client, the better. And when I say specific, I'm saying the age. I'm saying location of where they live. I'm saying the exact problems that they're facing. I want to understand what are the questions, right? Or we'll even say doubts that they have inside of their head. Like, what are they really facing internally? And the better that we can understand our ideal client, the more we will be able to serve them and help them through this, number one. And number two, from a marketing perspective and an offer perspective, it allows you to really speak directly to those needs and decrease the cost it's going to go ahead and get these people and obviously make it more financially profitable for you. So step number one, identify the ideal client. And the biggest things, like I said, you have your age, location, what are the problem? That's really the big point. What's the problem that they're currently facing? And then on top of that too, what is the outcome? Like what are they really wanting to go ahead and get? We'll say outcome slash solution to the problem. Now, once we've identified, okay, this person, we'll kind of use yours as an example and extrapolate a little bit. Let's say we have a 50-year-old woman who had a kid when she was 20 years old, went ahead, relinquished her kid, didn't tell anyone, went ahead, got remarried, has 3 kids now, and she just has this thing that has always just sat deep down like, oh, like it just eats me from inside. And then now her kids coming and looking for her, and she found her, and there's a part of her that's so excited, but there's another part of her that's like, oh my goodness, like I have this other life. Like, is this going to throw everything apart? Like, what's my husband going to go ahead and think? What are my kids going to think, right? And so this woman, she's going through a lot of hardship. And so we need to understand, okay, what's that exact problem that this person's facing? And then what is the outcome that she's looking for? She's looking for mental clarity. She's looking for understanding. How do I best navigate this situation? How do I best integrate my, my relinquished child that somebody else, adopted my son or daughter? And how do I reintegrate them into my current life? So we've went ahead, we've identified who the person is, male, female, what is their age, where are they at, what's their problem, what's their ideal outcome, okay? Now, once we have identified the ideal outcome, now we can really get specific into the product and the offer itself, okay? And obviously, I know that Diana, I'm speaking to you specifically about kind of stuff you're looking to go. Lisa and I know Eric, we've had a bunch of conversations, but both of you guys, I'd also recommend see this in your frame. Is this? Can this be, we'll say, implemented into your coaching business, whatever it may be. First, we have to identify the ideal client. Then we have to get clear on what is the product and the offer. So, for example, in this one individual, let's say she's 50 years old, okay? It's a woman, and she's facing all of these different things. Maybe she's wanting some sort of support group. Okay, got it. And it's weekly calls, and it's a clear step-by-step process of, okay, first you have to go ahead and you have to meet up with them, and then you got to go ahead and you got to set a time, and you got to talk to your spouse. Okay, awesome. Then you got to do this. So you'll have a clear step-by-step path, right, that you're going to go ahead and walk them to. And on top of that too, what are additional things that they're going to need? I'm sure there's going to be a very emotionally difficult situation and time period for this individual. So they're probably going to want a community around them. people that they can lean to, people that they can ask questions to, and all of these different things. So that would be the direction that I'd also go. And now as you start saying, okay, what does this person need? What would really guide this person towards getting this outcome? Not just as like a Band-Aid fix, but like really having a long term. Because if a person, so let's use this example, a 50-year-old woman, she had a kid at 20, she sat at this for 30 years. Like she probably has a lot of stuff internally that she's gonna have to go through, and it's not gonna be
Mhm.
easy. And there's gonna be times where she's gonna be like, look, even in the beginning when she's like, yeah, I'm so excited, I want to do this, and then a month down the line, she's like, look, Diana, I don't think I'm cut out for this. This is too much, whatever it is. And so we have to go ahead and create this program, create this product, so that it supports these people throughout the process, through the doubts, through all these different things. So this will be part number one in getting to at least $30,000 a month, okay? Identify the offer by first identifying who are we helping, and then we've identified what is their problem, and then from there we got the outcome of like what they're looking for. And now we just have to go ahead and create this solution to allow them to get to that point. And that's essentially what your offer is going to go ahead and be. And I'm seeing here the chat, so I'm going to go ahead and plop it up here.
That's just me.
Okay, amazing, awesome. Driving now and listening. Okay, awesome, Lisa. Great to have you. Make sure you stay safe, please. Business name is Relative Peace. I like that. Awesome. So as we're making all of this out, we're crafting the offer, there's two things, and I don't want to spend too much time because like I said, I want to make sure we cover through everything. But when we're specifically crafting the offer, right, what is the thing that we're going to include and stuff like that, there's a couple of things that we have to consider. Number one, the cost. Number two, the price. And number three, the value. Okay? So ideally, where we want it to be is your cost for delivering this program, whatever product service, is going to go ahead and be down here. Okay, per person. Then you're going to go ahead and charge this much, and your value is going to be this much. And I mean, let's count this as 0 down here somewhere, and then this being whatever the value is up top, and the price, and we'll say the number increases as we go up. So we want to have it to where you're going ahead and obviously making good returns on this in comparison to the price that you're getting for it. Because if you were to go ahead and offer someone, hey, for 3 months we're going to meet every single week in a group, I'm going to give you all of this stuff, and it's only $100. Like this gap right here isn't really worth it. That's not going to pay the bills, not going to do that unless you're talking massive scale. And in the same sense, the other thing too is like how valuable is that really going to go ahead and be at that thing? So obviously I know I'm talking very high level, very theoretical right now, just for the fact of wanting to get to all 3 steps in today's call. But as you're going through and really determining, okay, how am I going to go ahead and make this offer? You have to understand, what is this person? What is the problem that they're facing? What is their desired outcome, right? Where are they now? Where do they want to be? And then what would really make it so that they're like, oh my gosh, this is so valuable. Like this is worth all of this money to me. And then you have it to where, for example, you charge $5,000, the person's like, look, if I have my mental sanity back and I don't have this grief that's inside of me or this shame or all of this stuff like that, that is worth, like, if I paid $5,000 for the next 10 years, that'd be worth it for me. But I'm going to pay $5,000 one time instead of the $50,000 that I could go ahead and do, because that is so important to me. So as you're making your offer, these are the things that you want to make sure you go ahead and consider. Is number one, the ideal client. What is their desired outcome? And then make sure as you're doing it, the value far exceeds that at which the price of which you're charging for it. Okay?
Mhm.
So as we continue along, let's say we have now identified whatever your program is, whatever you walk them through. Now part number 2 of getting to at least $30,000 a month, we got to understand like leads. Okay? And this is where a lot of coaches get stuck, because they help one person and they might refer 1 or 2 people, and then, oh, I know Judy down the street, she knows, and that's how it typically goes. And don't get me wrong, it can work like that. It can grow. If we're looking to stack the deck as much in our favor as we can, we want to have a consistent lead generation source that is going to bring this ideal client. Let's get a name for our ideal client. What's a name for this 50-year-old woman that we've gone? What's an example name that we can use, Diana, just for this exercise?
Maria.
Maria. Okay. So we have Maria. So we have to go ahead and find, so Maria is your ideal client, the person that you would love to work with all day, every day, that's experiencing all of these different things. So what we need to do when it comes to generating leads, we need to find Marias, right? And there's a lot of different ways that we can go about it, but if we just summarize the 3 main ways to generate leads, okay? Number 1, we have through making content. Number 2, we have through doing outreach. And number 3, we have through paid ads, okay? So content is you're making posts on Facebook, you're making posts on Instagram, you're sharing different pieces of information. It could be you going on podcasts and talking about all these different things. That's one way you could go about it, okay? This way is free. Free from a monetary perspective. Obviously, it's an investment of your time. Outreach, there's two different types of outreach. You have cold outreach, which is you reaching out to people that you bought an email list. Maybe you send text message to random people. Maybe you're going in social media groups and you're reaching out to, maybe you find a Facebook group that says biological parents of adopted kids. And you start messaging people. That's cold outreach. And then warm outreach is, let's say, your entire phone contact list. You just start texting people, hey, how are you? Oh yeah, do you happen to know X, Y, and Z, whoever it is. And so this is the second way that you can go ahead and get leads. The third, and in my opinion, best and most consistent way to generate leads is going to be through paid ads. Diana, have you ever run paid ads before?
No.
Okay, so paid ads, the beautiful part behind it, I'm assuming you're on Facebook, Instagram, have an account and everything. And as you scroll along, you'll see all these different sponsored ads. I'm sure you've come across those, right?
Mhm.
So the cool part behind that is that you can directly target specific interests, specific keywords and everything directly to put your message in front of more Marias, right?
Mhm.
So, and the cool part behind it is that you have a lot more consistency in your business. Why do I say that? Because we can go ahead and, for example, put $100 into ads, and on average, it's going to go ahead and cost $10 to go ahead and get one Maria to give you her name, phone number, and email. Amazing. Okay. And then we go and say, okay, perfect. How many Marias then do we actually, that give me their name, phone number, and email? How many of them actually speak to me? How many of them actually want to get on a call? How many of them actually get and decide to partner with me and become one of my clients? And so the beautiful part behind this is you can now start engineering, okay, I'm going to spend X amount of money in and I'm going to get Y amount of money out. And not only in regards to that, you can also say, okay, I'm going to put X amount of money in and I'm going to get X amount of leads. I'm going to get 10 leads. I'm going to get 10 Marias. Give me their contact information. And then you can start going through on that. So as I said, there are a lot of different ways, as you can see here, that you can continue to build out and get leads for your business. The one that I most highly recommend is paid ads because it gives you a lot of consistency. It allows you to have predictability as well in your business. And also you're not needing, because the thing, for example, with content, like I've worked with clients and they've absolutely popped off. They've got so many leads and everything like that, but it's a smaller subset of people, of coaches, that really start going big and make it to where it's a consistent lead generation source, right? That's one. And then outreach, it's just a matter of, it's a lot of time. So if you do have maybe a ton of time and you have no money to go ahead and do paid ads, these could work for you. I just so highly recommend people going down the path of paid ads because that is even, and the thing that even people say is like, oh, well, I don't have the money right now to do paid ads. I literally tell them, hey, there's two options that you can have. You're either going to dedicate your time to go get leads by doing outreach, by making content and all of that, or you go ahead and you go, instead of the hours on this, you maybe go drive Uber or whatever, and now you have $500 a month that you can dedicate towards running paid ads. And then you start making a community with a whole bunch of Marias, and Marias are just there sharing, and it can just be a free community. And then you go ahead and you sell one person at $5,000. Okay, awesome. Now we reinvest back into more ads, and it keeps growing from there. So that's the reason why I really like paid ads. It provides consistency to your business. You can speak directly to your ideal client, and it makes things a whole lot easier and more predictable. So to recap, we have went ahead, we've identified your ideal client, we've gotten clear on your offer, who are you helping, what does that look like, and we've now found a way to get leads in your business. So let's say that we are now getting obviously to more of the sales piece. And people, when you hear sales, what do you think about, Diana? Is that like a positive or negative thing for you?
Uh, No, I know sales is service and
Okay,
I
good.
struggle.
It is. Tell me a little bit more. And there's a very specific reason why I asked that question, because that's a lot of coaches I come with. They're very passionate about helping other people. When they say, oh, sell the person, like, no, like they get the EBGBs or something like that. So tell
Right.
me what you mean.
I have just been helping people and just I want to make their lives better. So, um, and it comes naturally to me. And
Mhm.
so so the value I have placed on it isn't as great as what it really is. And I know people who pay attention and all of those things. And there's just been a resistance in me. And I think that's partially because I've been, um, my right fit client have been adopted people. And I think by now reaching out to the parents biological and adoptive parents, I think I'll have less of a resistance to helping them
Okay.
understand their children and how to have a good relationship with them.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I'm going to take a step back for a second. As obviously we talked about, step number one is just identifying your offer above all else. As much as you want to go ahead and help people, we also have to remember people buy things to solve a problem. So if Maria doesn't feel that this problem is worth this much value, is
Mhm,
worth more than the price, then they're not going to go ahead and buy. So that's
mhm,
another thing that we also need to consider of is the pain, is the problem really so big for the person that they're willing to go ahead and do that? And obviously, yes, some people will be problem aware, but maybe some people might not be. And that's the
mhm,
reason why in the beginning, as we're doing all this and really understanding our ideal client, that's why it's so important to really get
mhm.
clear like how, and that's the beautiful part behind it. Whenever I start working with coaches, are you familiar with what a CGE is, Diana?
CGB?
CGE. It stands for Community Growth Ecosystem. And essentially, what it entails is rather than you just going out fishing every single day trying to get a client, okay, you make money and then you deliver. And then it's like, okay, oh wow, I need money. Okay, and then you try to go get another client and then you deliver. And now people are just constantly stuck in this flow of like money, deliver. But they're really passionate about delivering. So then they end up getting jaded of like, okay, I don't want to sell anymore. So instead of just having that sort of relationship, what you want to do is you want to build your CGE. And I want you to imagine almost like a big spider web. And you're building this entire ecosystem to where you're getting people involved at the very edges of your spider web. And you're building this pond, this community where people can interact with each other, to where people naturally ascend. Not as much of a hard sell. It's like, oh wow, I'm going to be in this free community where I can start learning and doing all this stuff. And oh, you know what Diana was saying on that call, like I really like that. You know, I want to work together because I have a lot of stuff that I'm struggling with right now or that I'm going through, and I would love the help to understand how to best navigate this. And you could see it in the same exact way that I run this community, right? You went ahead, you probably saw one of my advertisements on Facebook or Instagram. You went and you clicked on it, you joined the group, you've seen some of the stuff, maybe you saw an email, you saw a post, and now you're on the call here. It's the same exact thing. And I don't say that in the fact like, oh, the expectations now, you have to buy my stuff to teach you. No, no, no. It's the same exact thing that you'll do too. Because just as you shared your heart with me, like, look, I just want to help people. That's me too. And if people can go ahead and come here and learn different things and all of that, amazing. If we never work, but it helps them, oh, I love that. Praise God. Circling back though, I also understand that if people are coming here, they're getting value, like, oh wow, I really love what Chris is saying. The probability that they work with me and they pay me because they see, oh wow, Chris can actually get me to where I want to, it works the same way. So what I'd recommend for you, based on what you've shared with me and kind of what I perceive from your heart and where you really wanted to go with it, is making this community where you just start having all these Marias come together and they're just sharing different things. And you're doing that and you're running ads into this community to where you can help, where you can give. It's not like you're asking before you're giving. No, you're giving a ton of value and then the people are like, yes, that's what I need. And then you go ahead and you start working with them. So coming back down to it, the biggest thing that I wanted to say is the offer. We need to make sure that Marias out there, they are problem aware enough and it is as big as a problem that they are willing to go ahead and spend that type of money. Or maybe we just go on a different aspect of it, right? So instead of as you said before, you were going after, the adopted children. Maybe they don't care maybe as much about finding who their biological parents are. Maybe they don't care. But then you have the other side, like you said, the biological parents that relinquished their children. That's maybe something that's bigger for them and they are willing to go ahead and do it. Obviously, I can take my presumptions of what it may or may not be. The best way to go about it, and the reason why the very first thing I talked about today is your ideal client. Because unless you go ahead and you have that, we'll never know. There have been times where I put a message out there and I thought, oh, this is awesome. They're going to love it. I'm going to get so many people that want to go. And it absolutely flopped. And then there are other times where I just put a message out, like, I'm curious, let me see it. And it absolutely blew up. So it's the same exact thing that we really need to understand our ideal client, what they're facing and what they value and what they do not value. Because in our head, it might sound great, but to them, it's not worth it to me.
Mhm.
So does that make sense, by the way? I know I have a tendency to talk very fast, especially when I get excited. But is this in the general sense of direction? Is this making sense? Is this helpful?
Yes, thank you, Chris.
Okay, good. So we've went ahead, we've identified the ideal client, we've identified our offer, we've got a way to get leads, whether it be through making content, whether it be through doing outreach, whether it be through paid ads. And now we've got to the sales piece. And I know you said the buzzwords, and if you notice, I even smiled on some of the things. Sales is service, right? People pay more attention when they pay, and it's the same exact thing I tell people. But as much as we tell ourselves these phrases, there's still something internal that there needs to be overcome. And one of the best ways that I like to think about it. Hey guys, what's going on? It's Chris. A lot of you leave comments and send DMs to me telling me that you need help. Do me a favor. I'm going to tell you the best way to get a hold of me. Shoot me a text message right now at 949-990-5808. Once again, that's 949-990-5808. I'll help you with whatever you guys need. I got your back. Let's get back to the video. Your relationship with this, you said that your mother went ahead and relinquished you up for adoption. And that's kind of why you're big about this space. Is that correct?
My biological mother, yes. It
Okay,
was the
got it.
60s. She was unmarried,
Okay,
and,
got it.
and my father was of a different race,
Mm,
and she didn't have the support that she felt she could uh, make a good home for us. So she relinquished me. Yes.
yeah. Have you helped other people go through this process before, or are you just currently stepping in regards to specifically the biological parents, not the the kids that were up for adoption? I'm saying the biological parents. Have you had the chance to help them yet, or are you just starting with that?
Yes. Yeah. I've just more informally, I've been working with birth parents when they find out I'm adopted, and I share, and then they'll come and talk to me about things. Um, and then, yeah, I've helped other people, both adopted, adoptive parents, and uh, birth biological parents
Okay.
and their
Awesome.
families. My neighbor found out she had a nephew she didn't know about
Wow.
recently, and that was, her brother had relinquished a child
Got
with
it.
this high school girlfriend, and that came out 3 years ago. So we've been working together on
Okay.
processing. Yeah.
So the one thing that I've found helpful to me, because I'm a very similar frame of I want to help people and I don't want to go ahead and take people's money. And the biggest mindset shift that really helped me is if I were in that situation, if I was Maria and I'm experiencing massive amounts of grief, massive amounts of shame, how much would that be worth to me monetarily to get rid of that shame, to get rid of that grief, to feel happy again, to not be constantly thinking about, oh, I'm such a terrible person because I did X, Y, or Z, right? And the thing to also consider is not just like a one-time thing. It's this person, Maria, for example, she's 50 years old right now. She'll probably
Hmm.
continue to feel these feelings for the rest of her life.
Hmm.
And so for $5,000, if she could really go ahead and get that that relief,
Hmm.
is that worth it to her? And so now it's not a matter of, okay, I'm taking $5,000 from this person. No, 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 no. I'm helping this person get something that they deem to be so valuable because going through life living in grief and shame, because tell me if those are probably two of the biggest things that these people are feeling, right?
Yes, very
Have you,
much so.
yeah, have you ever heard of the emotional tone scale before?
Emotional tone scale?
Yep.
No.
I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going a little bit different, but I want to show you something because I think it would be helpful. So emotional tone scale, and I'm going to share my screen here in a second so you can actually see it. Bum, 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 bum. Let me see. Emotional, grief, uh, death, strong. I'm gonna find a different one. Emotional, we'll say vibrational scale or something like that. And essentially the reason why I'm sharing this with you, here we go. Okay, I'm gonna split my screen share over here, open image, and new tab. Okay, and I know Lisa, you can't go ahead and see this because you're driving, so stay safe so you can just listen to us. But essentially come in here though,
Oh,
this might be all foo-foo and everything to you, but basically every single emotion that happens inside of the human body can actually be correlated to a specific, vibrational frequency that goes on. And
hmm,
and those two things that we talked about, guilt and shame, those are the
yeah,
absolute lowest and
right.
worst feelings that a human has, right? So for example, we have, and you probably, it's by the shaking of your head, you're like, yeah, I've heard of this before.
Yeah.
As we look at this, you know, you have people that are really sad, right? And sad can kind of be like for fear, for grief, whatever it is. And you have them, they go ahead and they lash out, right? They're dealing of grief of a loss of a loved one, whatever it is, and they lash out at us and like, whoa, where did that come from? And one way that you can describe from a scientific perspective is that the reason why is because from an emotional level, it actually feels better to be angry than it does to feel grief. And so I
Mm.
share that because especially your demographic, they're at the lowest of the low of
Hmm.
that emotional scale. And so not only is it the fact that you're going to go and help them with that, you are helping them from, I mean, I there's a part of me that says I probably shouldn't take it here, but I'm going to go ahead and take it here. Um, a lot of these people probably have so much grief, so much shame that they may consider to end their life. Some people, or they go ahead and they do really bad things. Is that a fair assumption to make?
Actually, that is particularly true. Adopted people are 4 times as likely to attempt suicide, but that is even higher for birth mothers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not only, and I'm just throwing this $5,000 number out, it might be more, it might be less. That's for you to decide as
Hmm.
you craft an offer. Not only are you helping these people go through something very difficult emotionally, you are decreasing the person's probability of doing something like that to themselves.
Hmm.
And so when you really frame it like that, it's no longer, oh wow, I'm selling someone on my program. It's like, no, 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 no. This person is in a burning building and I need to help them get out of it because they don't even realize what happens. They don't understand what is to come if they don't do this, if they let these bad thoughts perpetuate within themselves. And then they start asking these questions and that, and where it really goes. So I know you understand these things. You said sales of service and all of that, but that'd be the biggest thing that I'd say. And if maybe in the beginning you're like, look, at $5,000, I'm not comfortable. Okay, that's totally fine. Then name your program to be $5,000 and go ahead and sell it at an 80% off discount worth $1,000. And then you start doing this, then you increase your prices because you have to also remember, coming back up here on paid ads, if you put $100 versus $10,000 into paid ads, you're going to reach a lot more Marias when you have $10,000. So it's not
Hmm.
only the fact that you're just taking money to take money and
Right.
you're going to go blow it on. No, no, like I can tell, and even at your facial expressions as you talk about all these different things, it's like you're like, I want to do this because I want to help people. And
Hmm.
you going ahead and you getting the money, you doing that, let alone the fact of taking care of yourself, you're able to go reach more Marias. You're able to make this massive community to where anybody that goes through this, because of whatever situation, it's also it's a very near and dear message because my grandmother was actually adopted. She was
Oh.
conceived at 18, no, excuse me, I think she was, her mother was 17 years old and the father was
Uh-huh.
old. And the father's family disliked my great grandmother so much that they said, no, she is not welcome anything, got completely disowned from the family. And because of that, the father then divorced and completely, actually, excuse me, they weren't married at the time, completely left her and left her to be. She was pregnant, she didn't have a job, she didn't have
Yeah.
any money or anything like that. And in the end, she needed to go ahead and give my grandmother up for adoption.
Hmm.
And this could lead down a whole nother can of worms. Actually, I won't share it. But as a whole, though, it's it's something so important, I'll say. Because
Hmm.
anybody that goes through that, as you said, the suicide rates go massively through the roof, right? There's
Yeah.
all this grief, there's these things. I mean, I am, I've said it twice, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to go there anyway. But you even talk about the fact of like abortion and whatever people's stance are. I'm big in this group. I'm just going to give my opinion. I see abortion as killing the baby, is what it really is. And the hard part is that you go ahead and you see an abortion of my grandmother, I wouldn't be here, for example, you know? And as we go ahead and do that, even the way I could see this community continuing to grow, because it's not only that, it's how do we continue going further back? Of let's say, for example, my great grandmother that was 17 years old, and she just like, I have no hope. I don't know where to go. Like I'm just, I don't know. And then she has
Hmm.
this community, you know, of relative peace, you know, and she's able to go ahead and find that community and everything like that. And so that's something that I'd say is really powerful as you continue to do this. And that's why on sales, it's not only just you're taking money, it's like you're building all of this and you're helping people through this process. So zooming back out, we've identified your offer, your ideal client, we've got leads coming into your business, and now it's just a matter of going ahead and selling them, right? And
Yeah.
not selling them
Chris, can
services.
I share something real quick?
Please,
Just
please.
since you did go there, but thank you for sharing. your
Yes.
family connection, and it doesn't just affect your grandmother, right? It affects the whole family about like health and all sorts of things. But
Absolutely.
I like to think of abortion where you're choosing not to be pregnant, and adoption you're choosing not to be a parent, and those are very separate things, because oftentimes adoptees get that, like, aren't you glad you're not aborted? It's like, well,
Mhm.
some of us are not glad because they had such horrible
Yeah.
adoptions.
Yeah.
But those two things are separate, so I just needed
Yeah.
to toss that out there. Thank you,
Yeah.
though.
Thank you for sharing your perspective on and all that. And that's what I really want to foster here within this community because people may see things differently. They may want to have this or that, whatever it is. And the most important thing, especially in today's society of like, it seems like people, if they don't see exactly eye to eye, they can't go ahead and have a conversation because it's like, no, no, you're wrong. And so I appreciate you sharing that as well and stopping me on
Yeah.
this.
Yeah,
Uh,
I know a birth mother who relinquished her firstborn child to
mhm,
adoption, even married the father. They were graduate students.
mhm,
And then, but she always wondered where he was. So, and this
mhm,
is in the 60s again. And then in the 70s, she became pregnant again.
mhm.
And she chose to have an abortion at that time because she, she just couldn't stand not knowing where her son was.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
there's obviously a lot of different ways and things that people go through to come to whatever it
Yeah.
is. So.
Yeah. It's
um,
complicated.
It is. So coming back to it on the sales piece, you
Sales.
have
Yes.
all of these different Marias and you have this group, this community, and seeing it as, I like to describe it as the burning building, because to me, when you see it as just selling to sell that, it makes it more difficult, right? But when you see like, look, you know this where this path leads and you know it's not the direction where this person wants to go. They're telling you, hey, look, I want to be up here. I don't want to feel this anymore. And you know that if you don't go ahead and you get them and you start working with them, that they're not going to get here, most likely ever. Right? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Most
Mhm.
people, if they had what they needed, whether it be the knowledge or the accountability, they would have already done it. They would already be at their desired outcome. So they're missing something, whether it be the knowledge of what to do, whether it be the accountability, whether it be the support, any of these things. And so that's why selling is so important because when you really see it as I'm here to help a person, I'm here to guide the person through it, I have no shame coming and asking, saying, look, for this, knowing that I can truly help the person get to where they want to be. Right. And that's
Mhm.
why it all starts with the ideal client of what is their problem? What is that? And then you craft your offer around what is this person facing and how can I help them?
Mhm.
So within that, I know that we have about another 13 or so minutes on it, but obviously I know this isn't necessarily anything groundbreaking. And sometimes I get on these calls, people are like, oh yeah, of course, Chris, you get offers, you figure out your offer, you get leads, you sell. But another one of my favorite Albert Einstein quotes is that if you can't explain it simply, you don't know it well enough.
Mhm.
And to me, yes, of course, there are intricacies that come within all of this, but the most important thing are these three steps. You need to identify your offer. You need to find a way to just start talking to people because that's the biggest problem most coaches face. They're like, "Oh, well, I'm not making sales." I'm like, "Okay, but like, how many people are you in front of? How many leads are you generating?" I like, I talked to one person last week and 2 weeks before. It's like, no, like, how can you ever expect it for people to go ahead and get started with that if they don't even know you exist, right? So, uh, you have a fairly extensive network, but you don't make offers. Tell me more.
Oh, well, I've been an adoptee advocate and have been in this space for over 30 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I talk to people, and I'm in the Facebook groups and sharing,
Awesome.
but I haven't, yeah, I haven't, I guess, had enough clarity around my offer to speak it. I've been a librarian for 30 plus years,
Okay. Yeah.
and and now I'm transitioning. I got laid off during COVID,
Okay.
and so the coaching is kind of is something new that's
Okay.
outside my comfort zone. Like, I like being in the library quiet,
Mhm. Yep.
hiding in the stacks.
Mhm.
But I've
Yep.
been connected. I mean, I know, like, Carol Schaefer, who wrote and the book The Other Mother, which was one of the first ones to come out about that issue. My reunion story was actually featured in Good Housekeeping.
Oh,
Um, And my birth mother's story was featured in Good Housekeeping in 1968. It was called Diary of an Unwed Mother. So when I reunited with her,
Mhm.
um, I found that out.
Okay.
So there's all sorts of potential there, and I just have I don't,
Well,
I don't know.
yeah. So
Follow it.
here's if I were in your situation, here's what I would do. You obviously we talked about identifying the ideal client. Sounds like you have a pretty good understanding of it. If I were to put it on a piece of paper, then what I'd go ahead and do is I'd take that problem that they're facing and I'd get clear on the outcome, and then I'd say, okay, to get a person from where they are now to where they want to be, what steps do they need to take, right?
Hmm.
And then just outline it, and you have now your framework, right? So,
Hmm.
and I'll kind of show you mine here in a second. Okay, you have a framework, cool. And I'm assuming throughout that process they're going to want support, right?
Hmm.
In regards to like maybe a coach or accountability or a group, something like that. On
Hmm.
top of that, too, they're also probably going to want some sort of personalization, right?
Hmm.
Because yeah, you're going to have this framework, this, we'll call this actually your step by step process, right?
Yes.
You're going to have this, but in the same sense, they're going to be like, oh, what about this in my situation? What about that, right? And so you have some sort of personalization piece to it. Now, you can choose to do it in a more one-on-one fashion. If you're looking for something more scalable, you could have it be where, hey, we have 2 calls a week. You come on, it's Q&A. One week we just talk about actual topics. The other one is just solely based on Q&A, and that's where the personalization piece comes in. And so now you go ahead, you have this framework, you have support, you have the personalization piece, you have all of these things that you can go ahead and do. And then that's your offer now. Okay, for $5,000, I'm going to go ahead and give you the step-by-step process of what you need to do to go from experiencing shame, grief, feeling like you're not worthy because of what you did, to feeling at peace, to
Hmm.
understanding that you did the best you could at your present time back then with your current
Hmm.
situation and everything. And you're not perfect, but I'm going to give you the peace to really be. I'm trying to find another way to describe it. I'll say be at peace with what
Hmm.
you with what happened, and also find a way to go ahead and integrate this within X, Y, and Z. So exactly relative peace. Exactly. So you have this. So you have $5,000. I have an entire step-by-step process. It's a 7-step framework that I've come to realize because it's not just like one and done. It's not like you just have the conversation and it's done. We have to go ahead and understand what are the steps that we need to take in order to get you from grief to here. And so you go ahead and you have that 7 step, and on top of that too, we're going to have twice a week calls, okay? And then on top of that too, you're going to have a coach that walks you through everything on it. That's going to help and answer any sort of questions or anything like that you have. Ada, nice to go ahead and have you here. We're breaking down Diana's newly formed coaching business. So Diana, coming back to it, really getting clear on the offer, and then what I'd recommend, because I could see it in your heart, I can see it the way that you're describing, like, oh, I'm like, I don't want to sell people. Make a free community, make a free school group or something like that. And then all these people in your network, you're not selling them something. It's like, hey, I have an extensive network. If you want, come here. And I'm just going to go ahead and share after helping all of these people. After going through X, Y, and Z, I'm going to share the step-by-step process of what you need to do in order to get there. And it's a once a week call and it's a community. It's modeled after the stuff I'm doing. It's not like I'm trying to tell you something that hasn't worked, right? I've helped coaches sell over $10 million online and I'm doing the same exact thing for myself. So as you go ahead and do this, taking these things to where now, instead of trying to sell someone, be like, hey, let's hop on a call so I can sell you, join my free community. And we go ahead and you get them on a call once a week. And then when they're on the call, they're like, oh my gosh, Diana, the information sharing, this is awesome. Be like, yeah, if you want, obviously there's only so much support that I can give you on a call once a week when I have however many people here. Right. So if
Hmm.
you do want, we can hop on a call and I'm more than happy just to kind of break down like where you're at and if it's something that I could help you with.
Hmm.
So that's what I would recommend doing. And it sounds like with your fairly extensive network, you could get a bunch of leads into your group and then go ahead
Hmm.
and transition that into sales. And just instead of seeing it as sales, be like, hey, let's just hop on a call to like figure out where you are and what are the biggest things that are holding you back from being at peace with this, from feeling comfortable, from understanding how to integrate, the children that you relinquished with your current family. And you just go ahead, you get on a call, you give little personalized tips, advices, and then at the end of the call, you're like, hey, obviously I know you can do this yourself. If there was a way that I could go ahead and help you get from where you are now to where you want to be, would you be open to having a conversation to, working together and like
Hmm.
coaching to do that? They're going to say yes. And then you're going to go ahead and get them on a call. You're going to sell them on your $5,000 program. That's all this stuff. And boom, now you have a business and you continue selling, you continue getting more Marias and you can continue to grow your business. So I know that was definitely not a lot of information to digest all at once. I'm glad you like it. Where's your head at? What are you thinking as we kind of start to get towards the end and wrap up everything here?
Yeah, I seems doable. I just have to take those steps and then not be afraid to share them.
What do you mean by not afraid to share them?
Um, that whole visibility piece, like talking to people. I'm good at creating community. I'm less good about the creating the content.
What do you mean
Um,
by making the content? What type of content?
well, just tips for like developing a relationship or words to use for like my birth mother and I have some pet names for each other that could work with other people that don't like she's not my mom because I have my mom,
Hmm.
but she could be my my other mother, which is kind of MOM,
Yeah.
you know, and just how to mm, find that peace or find, forgive yourself for making those decisions, which you might not have, your 17-year-old grandmother didn't really have a choice, and yet she'll probably beat herself up or
Yeah.
beat herself up over it. But how to forgive yourself, feel worthy, all of those things to get up that ladder, I think. I've got a lot of ideas there, Chris. So now I just
Well,
have to implement them.
Well, the beautiful part behind it is you have all these things that you've done with people you've worked with in the past, all these ideas and everything like that, and now you're putting it down on paper, and this is you becoming your step-by-step process to go from where they are now to where they want to be.
Mhm.
So what you're doing within your network, you're not necessarily trying to go ahead and sell them on whatever it is. It's let's get them into the community to where you can just
Mhm.
have it, even if they don't even show up. But you even said it before of having a support system around you makes a massive difference. And
Mhm.
understanding just like, okay, because that's also probably one of the hardest parts too, is they feel alone. They feel shame. They feel like, oh, nobody else does this. And when they see all these other women that are kind of experiencing the same thing, it's like, okay, wow, maybe I'm not as weird as
Mhm.
I think, whatever it is, because it's not the case. You have circumstances that happen. So that's what I'd say. And then you could shamelessly be like, hey, once a week I have a free call, join my community. We have a bunch of other people, other mothers that are going through the same thing. And if you just want to have a community where you could just, openly and without judgment share, come in, we'd love to have you here. And then you
Mhm.
transition that into actually working and implementing this step-by-step process that you have all these ideas, but now you just need to put it on paper.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds
Awesome.
good. Thank you.
Absolutely. Eric, Ida, or even Diana, you two, any questions, any clarifications, anything that kind of come to mind of like, what do I do next? Why I didn't understand this, I didn't understand that. Is there anything that you guys have for now?
I do, Chris.
Yeah, what's up, Eric?
Um, the offer
Hmm.
um can be so many different things. There's
Hmm.
so many possibilities and how to be of service to our ideal client.
Hmm.
Um, what guidance or how do you do it? Like how big, how do you craft your offer and in conjunction to how you should value it? Are you valuing it based on the time you're putting in? Are you valuing it based on the value that the client might receive? Um, how do you flesh out the specifics of the offer so that you're really can help and how much detail, how specific do you get, and then how do you calculate a value for that?
Yeah. So, couple things. I want to first one just touch on what is value. One thing that I'd say to always remember, value is always determined by the buyer. Great having you here, Diana. Keep us updated inside the community, and we'll go ahead and we'll see you next call or whenever it is. Coming back to what you were saying, Eric, what is value? Value is always determined by the buyer. So you could think it's really valuable, but it's really going to come down to them. The I give an example sometimes of, okay, if I drove up to your house with a $500,000 Ferrari, checked out by a mechanic, everything's all good, you know it's worth $500,000. I say, hey, look, I have too many cars. My girlfriend's mad at me that it's not fitting. It's taking up her space in the driveway. Just take it off of me. $50,000, please just take it. I don't want it anymore. Now, for some people, they'll say, okay, amazing. 500,000, 50,000, $450,000 gap in between the price and the value. So they're like, oh yes, absolutely. But you have to think about it. If I was bringing that to a Shaolin monk, they probably don't care about the money. They couldn't care less about it. So with that said, it also comes down to what other people deem to be valuable or not valuable. So when it comes to your offer and what's valuable, you got to go ahead and do that. The beautiful part behind your specific space is that you can equivocate that to a specific monetary value. So if they're going to go ahead and pay you $50,000 and they're going to go ahead and make back $100,000 in the first 12 months, and over time, let's say $500,000, a 10x turn, that's great. So that's the first thing that I would say there. There is the value equation, which is a way that you could go ahead and put it into actual numbers. The value equation is simply this. You have value is equal to the outcome multiplied by the, we'll say, perceived likelihood. I'm just going to do perceived likelihood of achievement. So like how likely, how probable is it that they're actually going to get this result, right? This outcome.
Yeah.
And then on the bottom, you have time and you have effort.
Oh.
So the more that you can decrease the time and effort down here, and the more you can increase the outcome and the perceived likelihood of achievement, that's when your offer becomes more valuable. So if you're like, hey, I'm going to come in and I'm going to completely install the entire MedSpa CEO system into your business, right? You're decreasing the time, you're decreasing the effort, and you're going to go ahead and you're going to make $1 million. Okay, now it's like, okay, it's a no-brainer. And the biggest thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that the price in comparison to the value is as big as possible. Because the greater this is, the more people are like, oh my gosh, I need to do this right now.
Yeah.
So that's what I'd say in regards to value. When it comes to what to do, I mean, there's so many different ways that you could go about it. And this is even take me as an example. I have the Coaching Accelerator program. It's $10,000. We help coaches get to $30,000 a month. Could I go ahead and I give them the whole shebang to get to $100,000, multiple $100,000 a month? Yes. The thing is, though, is that before we get to $100,000, we got to go ahead and take certain actions to get to $30,000 a month consistently. So as you're crafting your offer, one thing that I would say to keep within your head is, what is the first step of what they need to do? How can you give them or offer and sell them on this program? And then when they get in this outcome that this program has, what's the next problem that they're going to go ahead and face? And how do you go ahead and sell them on the next one after that? Because there's a million different things that you could go ahead and solve for them. But instead, like, hey, you do not have a consistent lead acquisition system for your business right now. Let's get that dialed in, and we're going to get you to X amount of money per month. Okay, amazing. Now we have this dialed in. You're making a bunch of money. That's program one. Okay, awesome. Program two. What's the next problem they're going to have? If they're having so much, let's say, clients coming in, they're probably going to need to go ahead and hire staff, whether it be front office staff, whether it be more, people on the back end that are doing the delivery, whatever that is, that's now the next problem. And so now you have this one, you're solving, you're helping them, and the next thing that they're going to need, okay, perfect. Let's help you on that. This is now going to be this much, and it's going to be the next step inside of my value ladder. So circling back to it, what do I do with it? I wouldn't recommend trying to go ahead and do the entire shebang from the get-go. Let's say, what's the first problem that they're facing? Solve it for them, one specific problem, one specific outcome, one specific solution. And then from that have higher level programs that you can develop that then solves that next problem that you know that they're going to face.
Does that
answer your question?
Fascinating. Yeah. No, fascinating. It's like you got to kind of sequence it out a little bit, and I've been playing with that idea of like the whole shebang.
Yep.
And because there's an element that their chances of success requires the whole shebang. And if they don't make a commitment for the whole shebang, then the probability of achieving the results goes down.
Yes.
So maybe that top line calculation of probability of success or the target goal, they need to be adjusted, and it's kind of an incremental program. Yeah, interesting. I love that formula. That's really good. Okay.
It helps make it. And another thing too that I want to point out, it's not the likelihood of achievement, it's the perceived likelihood of achievement. Now, what do I
Okay.
mean by that? It's what in the prospect's mind, what is the likelihood that they'll do it? Not what the actual likelihood is, what they believe it could be, right? So even though the likelihood may be extremely high, if they don't believe it, the value they see the value is very low, right? So that's another thing, and that's where it comes into making the case studies, the testimonials, showing them all of the different things to make them believe, oh wow, I could actually do this.
Mm, mm.
Let's hop on a call because I was thinking about you when I was in Boston and everything. I was just so slammed and all of that.
No, no,
And I
I
was
know.
like,
I
shit too.
know. No,
Um,
take your time. You can take a break. You can hit me up whenever you want. I miss you.
miss
Uh,
you too.
and so, whatever is good for you, bro. If you just take your time, man. I'm around,
Absolutely.
you know.
What I'm going to go ahead and do, let's wrap it up here, and then
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead. I have a couple minutes. I'll give you a phone call just so we can go ahead and put a time on the calendar.
Yeah. Okay. I've got okay. Let's put a time on the calendar. Okay.
Cool. Okay. Awesome.
All right.
I'm going to
Bye.
go ahead and wrap it up here.
Yep.
Everyone, thank you for joining us today. I hope that it was helpful in understanding the 3 steps that you need to take in order to get to at least $30,000 a month. Once again, to recap, number 1, you got to get clear on your offer. Who are you selling to and what are you selling to them? Number 2, how are you getting people in front of you? How are you generating leads? And then lastly, actually selling these people and not only just seeing it as sales and taking people's money, but seeing it as serving. And this is the best way that you can actually help this person get from where they are to where they want to be. Now, if this, once again, is your very first time coming onto the mastermind, we have these masterminds nearly every single week. If you would like specific topics to be covered, do not hesitate to put it inside of the school group. That's where I just get the most feedback based on what you guys are looking for. Great seeing everyone here, and we will see you guys here on the next mastermind, next meeting, and all that. Hey guys, I wanted to tell you that you are the true coaches and the real students. You made it till the end of the video. Do me a favor, share this with a friend who wants to go to another level. Also, make sure you like the video, comment below so I know who you are, subscribe, and turn on your notifications for the channel as we will be dropping more valuable content every single day. See you soon.